For the last handful of weeks, we have been in a series that has been walking through the Beatitudes, the blessed are statements of Jesus from the Sermon on the Mount. When I think about the Sermon on the Mount, it makes me think about Dietrich Bonhoeffer. He was a Lutheran pastor, theologian, and the founding member of the Confessing Church, which during the time of World War II took a very public stance in opposition to the Nazi German state church. There are tons of books and documentaries on the life of Dietrich Bonhoeffer, and I totally recommend you take the time to learn about this guy because he took the call of the disciple very seriously. You see, for Bonhoeffer, the call to be a disciple literally meant being willing to follow Jesus with everything he had. We know this because he was put to death by the Nazis during the end of the war. Bonhoeffer wrote a monumental book called The Cost of Discipleship, and in it he spends a lot of ink and paper on the true cost of being a follower of Christ, and talking about things like costly grace. He says, costly grace is the gospel which must be sought again and again. It is costly because it calls the disciple to discipleship. It is costly because it costs people their lives. And above all, grace is costly because it was costly to God. Because it cost God the life of God's Son. You were bought with a price, and because nothing can be cheap to us, which is costly to God. Also in the cost of discipleship, Bonhoeffer spends a whole section on the book talking about the Sermon on the Mount. And he relates this costly grace in talking about the lives of the disciples that are present for this sermon. These close friends of Jesus, not too long ago, were just a part of the crowd until Jesus extended this invitation to them. They left everything and followed him. Now they are the ones that are living with Jesus, and they go with him everywhere he goes. And Bonhoeffer says they have given up everything in response to his call. Now they are living in renunciation and want. They are the poorest of the poor, the most tempted of the tempted, the hungriest of the hungry. They have only him. Yes, and with him they have nothing in the world, nothing at all, but everything with God. So Jesus calls them blessed. Jesus' call to discipleship has made them poor, tempted, and hungry. And Jesus calls them blessed. I'm honestly not sure what to make of this blessing. And if you're on social media at all, you may be familiar with the concept of a hashtag. Using a hashtag at the end of a post with a word or a phrase not only gives you a chance to make a closing argument to your post, but it also ties your post to others that bear the same word or phrase. It essentially links you together with others so that people can easily search and find yours and other posts by that same searchable phrase. So doing a search for hashtag blessed on social media tells us a lot about what we as a society think it means to be blessed. If you look up a post on social media under hashtag blessed, and you get past all the posts about people's pets and their baby photos, which, by the way, are always super cute, you'll most likely see utter vanity, prosperity, excess, and people flaunting the American dream, showing off world travel, bikinis, and shirtless photos, extravagant food, wealth, and simply the acquisition of stuff. Hashtag blessed. So what does it mean to be blessed? After all of this, I honestly don't know. Jesus says the poor, those who are mourning, those who are meek, hungry, and merciful, pure in heart, those who make peace, those who are persecuted and treated poorly are blessed. Now, this is not what you think of when you picture someone who is blessed. So Why does Jesus say these attributes are blessed? When Jesus proclaims his blessing, he talks directly to his disciples. These are his words of encouragement that he delivers to them. That by following Jesus, the disciples have now taken on these traits. They have nothing. And Bonhoeffer says they have become needy in every way. They've committed all of their finances. They've given up everything. They are hungry. But their call also has hard work associated with it. As a disciple, you will seek mercy for others. You will seek to make peace in this war-infected world. And because of your faith, you will be persecuted and treated poorly if you live out this costly discipleship. For these reasons and many more, Jesus calls them blessed. Blessed because the world says otherwise. Their call is a call to an alternative to a life that is all about wealth and prosperity, an alternative to the American dream, an alternative to the societal culture of #blessed. So Bonhoeffer says, the kingdom of heaven will come to those who live thoroughly in renunciation and want for Jesus' sake. So what does that mean for us in 21st century America? Are we blessed? Jesus quite literally turns over the expectations on what you think of blessing. We live in one of the richest countries in the world. What does Jesus have to say to us? We believe that even though Jesus is talking to his disciples directly, his sermon speaks to all of us as well. So does Jesus wish for us to give away everything? To fast and to become cultural rebels? Well, that's something you have to decide for yourself. But if you're a follower of Jesus, or even if you're still on the fence about this whole disciple stuff, chances are you have found yourself in one of these areas though. If you are poor, if you are hungry, downtrodden, forgotten, left behind, society says that you are the farthest from prosperous. But Jesus calls you blessed. Despite what society says, Jesus calls us all blessed. Now, in a world that prizes wealth and power, Jesus tells us that God's favor is found among the powerless and the poor, and those working to and yearning for his kingdom here on earth. Following Jesus fully can leave you in this condition. And because of that, Jesus says you are blessed. Throughout this series, others have and will be talking about various other attributes that Jesus calls blessed. Today, I'm here to talk specifically about when Jesus says, "Blessed are the pure in heart." So what in the world does it mean to be pure in heart? Now, when I was spending some time doing some research in preparation for this sermon, I found a lot of different opinions on what folks think Jesus means here. When you look up the definition of the word translated here as pure or clean, maybe comes down to something like ethically pure or free from corruption. One writer says, pure in heart refers to the condition of the inner core of a person, that is, the thoughts and the motivation, and takes seriously the commandments of Jesus. Now, doing these commandments, but also being consistent with what drives you to do them, meaning not just going through the motions just because Jesus says so. Now, another writer argued, maybe pure in heart is talking about the disciples' devotion, that only those who have completely given their hearts to Jesus, so that he alone rules in them, are the pure at heart. They aren't stained by their own evil or their own good either, because God's purity is within them. Almost like a blank slate, like Adam before the fall. Yet another writer argues that it's all about personal holiness. We can't enter God's presence without being holy. Now, to me, that sounds a lot like it's taken from the Old Testament playbook, where the high priest had to be pure to enter the Holy of Holies. Now, this purity is also pointing to Psalm 24, which says, "Who shall ascend the hill of the Lord? And who shall stand in his holy place? Those who have clean hands and pure hearts, who do not lift up their souls to what is false, and do not swear deceitfully." One final writer says this: purity is derived from having no other telos, in other words, no other end or goal, but to enact the kingdom embodied in Jesus. So there you go. You got it figured out, right? Pure in heart. It's just that simple, right? You know, for me, when I think about being pure at heart, I think about little children. Now, I'm not saying that kids don't get into trouble and step out of line and need to be guided back from time to time, because I know they do. We all did. They all do. No, I'm talking about the heart. I'm talking about the inner innocence that hasn't been tainted by life as an adult. They haven't had the failures and the pitfalls of adulthood yet. They still trust without question. They look up to those in charge and truly believe deeply. They're creative, imaginative, and open to possibilities. They don't put bounds on potential. And when you say the sky's the limit, they really believe you. That's where we got to go. That's what we have to dive into. Now, I don't know from personal experience, but I have heard that as an adult, there is nothing like experiencing faith through the eyes of a child. And some parents that I've talked to say it's almost like you get to watch and experience God for the first time all over again. You watch as their eyes get big and wide when they begin to grasp the idea that God is way bigger than they ever could have imagined. And watching and listening to children pray is truly a holy experience. You see and you hear firsthand what is really weighing on their minds without the modesty filter we adults put on our prayers in public. No, you get raw, unfiltered prayer. Yeah, sometimes it's silly, but I think God is understanding enough, and I think God chuckles along as well. Adults are ashamed to be real or authentic with their faith in public because we fear ridicule. We fear shame. We fear that we will reveal too much of ourselves and will be judged by our peers. But not children. Jesus had this same kind of thinking about children. There are times in the Gospels where Jesus praises the faith of children. When some are trying to keep the children away from him, Jesus says, No. Let the little children come to me, and do not stop them, for it is to such as these that the kingdom of God belongs. He then says that we all should have faith like a child. Maybe we adults could learn a thing or two from our children. So what about us? Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Is there any hope for us? Is purity in heart something that is just fleeting? Do we just have it in our youth and lose it in our adult years? Is it an impossibility for us today? I, for one, fall short on the purity of my heart all the time. I will be the first to say that I do not measure up to this one, and I have so much to work on. Does this mean that I'll never see God? I sure hope not. It's in times like these that I lean on one of my favorite quotes from Stanley Hauerwas, who was the son of a bricklayer and had a tendency to just let it all hang out when writing and speaking about theology. He's deeply committed to what's called Christian nonviolence, and from the example of Christ. And this quote is taken from some words he gave about his commitment to it. With his strong and unabashed Texas attitude, he says, I say I'm a pacifist because of my tendency towards violence. I'm a Texan. I can feel it in every bone that I've got. But by avowing it, I create expectations in others that hopefully will help me live faithfully to what I know is true, but that I have no confidence in my own ability to live it at all. Now, I'll leave the peacemaking and the nonviolence to Jim next week when he'll be talking about the beatitude for blessed are the peacemakers. But what this quote says to me is, as a Christian, we have the church. We need the church, the Christian community, to hold us accountable to what we know we need to work on. We say it out loud so that others will hold us to it in love. I believe that all of us need to work at our purity of heart. Our earnest and wholehearted commitment to Christ. So I challenge you to go to someone you love and say out loud the beatitude that you need to work on the most. Let's hold each other accountable. And so Jesus says earlier on, blessed are the poor. Let me be clear. To be poor does not itself make one a follower of Christ. But it can open your eyes to what it's like to be freed to follow Jesus apart from the enslavement of the world. In similar fashion, with our striving towards pure hearts, we must make sure we are seeking a pure heart that is focused solely on bringing the kingdom down to earth. It seems like an impossibility because we're human. But Jesus says this, not so that we'd be perfect, but so that we'd never give up our childlike ways. Jesus says this so that we would not give up on seeking to be pure children of God. And Jesus says this so that we will never stop seeking after the face of God. Jesus wants us to have faith like a child. And like I said, maybe we adults should learn a thing or two from our children.
We're so glad that you joined us for this time of worshiping together today. I want to remind you of a few important things happening this week in the life of the church. Tonight, October 11th, we'll be gathering at our Activity Center at 6 p.m. for a time of in-person, socially distanced outdoor worship. These tailgate gatherings have been a wonderful time of worshiping together during these strange days, and I hope you'll be there tonight. At 5 o'clock, our youth will gather for small groups, and at 5:30, our kids will gather for time together in person. Our youth and kids are also meeting every Wednesday night via Zoom, and this time is active and fun. There are all kinds of new adult Bible study groups that are kicking off for the fall, so join in and find a group that's right for you. Next Sunday evening, we'll be having our third congregational conversation. You'll remember that these three important conversations are helping our church to shape our pastor profile and guide the pastor search committee and leadership team in their direction regarding our next senior pastor. These are important conversations, and we want your voice there. This time will be facilitated by Randy Ashcraft and will be through Zoom. Our last conversation was great. We've talked about the past and the present, and this conversation will lead us to our future. I hope to see you soon. Have a great week.
Hey Carter, why are you dressed like an elf?
Because it's Christmas time.
Christmas time? It's not even Thanksgiving or Halloween yet.
We got to get excited about selling Christmas trees.
Christmas trees? What about them?
Well, First Baptist Student Ministry always, each year at Christmas time, sells Christmas trees right here at the Activity Center. They sell Christmas trees to friends, family, and church people to try and reduce costs for church activities that they always do.
Okay, step 1, make a commitment. See an FBC student and commit to buying a tree or a wreath. Students will turn in your commitments ahead of time so we can anticipate your purchase.
Step 2, purchase your tree. On November 27th, come by and physically purchase your tree or wreath. We also accept walk-up sales.
Step 3, credits. When you finalize your purchase by coming to the tree lot and picking up your tree, the student that you pre-ordered from will receive credits to help get reduced prices for future activities.
First Baptist students are asking for early commitments to purchase trees and or wreaths from the congregation, friends, and family for our annual fundraiser. We do this in the same way that you might pre-order a book. They'll be coming around and asking if you'd like to purchase a tree, commit to buying a tree or a wreath, and you will not pay for this tree or this wreath in advance, but you'll be making a commitment to come by and purchase a tree or wreath from us at the lot when it opens. The students are asking for these pre-order commitments so that they will be able to get credit when you stop by to finish your purchase because they will have made a sale. I want to mention, if you don't wish to purchase a tree for yourself, you can still support our ministry by donating a tree or a wreath for someone else. The tree lot opens the day after Thanksgiving on Friday, November 27th at noon. Trees are sold first come, first serve. There'll be plenty of trees to go around, but come early for the best selection. Thank you again for supporting our student ministry.